Hello, Facebook. Hello, Facebook. Good morning. August 10th. August 10th, and it is Tuesday. We are closed today. I'm actually doing a private catering party today. In my office now before I start my morning of coaching calls with other restaurant owners. So that's my Tuesday mornings until about noon on the phone. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Pellegrino water today. One of the most iconic Italian brands of water. One of the most famous, it is the most famous Italian water. Most Italian restaurants and even non-Italian restaurants will serve Pellegrino water or Acquapana, which is the same company. It's the still water, it's a flat water. The Pellegrino is the sparkling water from San Pellegrino, Italy. Very, very, very famous water. I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. You don't know about that, and we avoid Pellegrino water. We've never served Pellegrino water. We've always served other options, and I'll talk about that. I'll talk about why. So good morning, everybody who's tuning in. Ralph, Joel, Dawn, good morning. If you're tuning in, just drop a comment. Hello, good morning, hashtag live, something like that. You're catching us live on Facebook right now. Unless it's not live right now. It's on the replay. I am live at 8:42 a.m. It also goes on to YouTube as well, onto our YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube, say hello over there. Sorry I don't get to answer many comments or questions on YouTube with 2,500 videos on YouTube. It's hard for me to keep up with all the comments that come in. So, good morning to everybody. So, San Pellegrino is one of the most iconic, classic, well-known Italian water brands, and it's almost become just one of those terms like Kleenex for tissue. I just want San Pellegrino, and most restaurants have San Pellegrino. San Pellegrino has been harvesting water, or water's been harvested from the San Pellegrino site since 1395. 1395. So I mean, history. Talk about history of bottled water. San Pellegrino is far ahead of everybody else. Good morning, Mary. So San Pellegrino is way ahead of everybody else. They got 500-year jump on everybody, 600-year jump. So that's one of the reasons. The water is amazing quality, by the way. It's amazing quality. So there's nothing wrong with the quality of San Pellegrino. A lot of people do drink bottled water when they go out. They trust the sourcing of the bottled water. They think it's a cleaner bottled water than getting tap water from a lot of municipalities, which can be very well the case. Sometimes you don't know what's in water in municipalities or what's not in it. So that's the situation with the history of Pellegrino. Now, Pellegrino is owned by a Swiss company called Nestle. Nestle owns Pellegrino, which people don't realize that, but Nestle owns San Pellegrino water. It's a division of San Pellegrino. We opened in 2003. That happened in 1997, I believe, was when they took ownership of San Pellegrino. I don't know who owned it before, if it was independent or they got it from another big company. I don't know that history right there. However, the problem with Nestle, if you followed any news, Nestle is not such a good company, especially in California. California, they're in another drought in another year, and they've been stricken with droughts the last 6, 7, 8 years, however long they've been stricken with droughts. And Nestle has had water rights on 7 acres, I believe up near the Sierra Nevada, up there somewhere. They've had water rights for cheap, I think 1914 or something, way back. On a 7-acre parcel, they have these water rights. Or have had water rights, but they've been abusing their water rights there. I think initially they were allowed to get 8 million gallons out of there annually, and they, year after year, they pump out 32 million gallons plus of water coming out of this 7-acre plot. Now, you can easily go and just type this into a Google search engine or to the internet anywhere and look up Nestle California water, and you will come up with hundreds and hundreds of articles, and it'll explain in depth what they're doing or not doing or doing wrong in California. Basically, they're taking more water than they're supposed to be taking. They don't care. They get away with it. The governor doesn't do anything. The attorney general doesn't do anything. Nobody does it. They just say, yeah, they shouldn't be doing it, and they just basically say stop it. Nothing's ever enforced with Nestle because Nestle's a big taxpayer. Nestle has a lot of politicians in their pocket. They know how to play the game as well with a lot of other corporations, and it's just one example of how corporations run our elected officials. So they put a blind eye to it. They make a public statement. Yeah, they're not supposed to be doing it. They say stop. But that's never being enforced because why would you enforce Nestle to do that? So why give money to Pellegrino, who is owned by Nestle, to keep encouraging them to do something? I have a problem with that. That's the one reason we've never, ever served Pellegrino water, because it's been a big brand. Now, did I know this in 2004, 2005, when we first opened in 2003? Did I know the water debacle and issue? I didn't. But I did know that Pellegrino was owned by Nestle, and I knew Nestle was a big international corporation. I knew that Nestle is responsible for a lot of slave labor chocolate. So just being a big corporation, I figured that there's stuff that they're doing that's a little bit questionable, and of course it is, and a lot of chocolate companies are very questionable with their products with slave labor. But Nestle having the history of chocolate and everything, I said, you know what? This isn't a company that I want to support. This isn't a company that I want your money going to, my money going to. This isn't a company that I want to support. Even if the Pellegrino came from an independent distributor, which a lot of small independent distributors sell Pellegrino water. We're big fans of Saratoga water here locally, and even the farm hubs. A couple of the farm hubs actually sell Saratoga water because it's a local water, and that's what we're fans of when it comes to bottled water. There's a lot of great bottled waters that come from across the country, companies that are independently owned, companies that are not abusing the water rights, that are not getting warnings and just and ripping up tickets. Basically, like you ever seen somebody get a speeding ticket and they rip up the ticket in front of the officer? That's basically what happens with Nestle in California. They just rip it up, and it's like they know that they're not going to enforce it, but they just have to make a public statement or say something, and you'll find articles that says, oh yeah, Nestle got a warning and this and that, but they're still doing it. They're still doing it. That's the bottom line. So back to 2003 and 2004 when we first opened, I had no idea what was going on with the water in California. I didn't learn that out until later, but I knew that buying from a big corporation wasn't the best bet, and buying from a smaller independent was a better option. So that's what we did from the very, very, very beginning with our bottled water. We've gone through a couple different brands of bottled water. One was a small Italian brand. At one point, we even came with Scottish water here. We were making Scottish ice cubes out of it to serve with our single malt Scotch. That water is no longer available in New York, but that was really cool. We were making ice with this, and so Scottish ice to go with your Scotch, your single malt Scotch. But so yeah, it's just common sense from the beginning. Hey, don't support these big corporations. These big corporations are just a detriment. They get away with a lot. They own our politicians, and it doesn't matter, what kind of industry it is. From water to chocolate to medical to whatever, they throw a lot of money around. They have a lot of lobbyists, tons of lobbyists, and of course, a lot of this is special interest. So that's our stance on Pellegrino water. We never order Pellegrino water when we go out. I refuse to drink Pellegrino water. Aquapana, refuse to. And I really haven't made like a statement of this before about Pellegrino water, but I figured, because people walk into the restaurant, they go, I'll have a Pellegrino. I'm sorry, we don't have Pellegrino. And some people are shocked. Well, why don't you have Pellegrino? Like, Pellegrino's like the #1 brand. So, and of course, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, just the long history and everything. And it's fantastic water, by the way. There's nothing wrong with the quality of the water. It's the parent company that's the evil. So, as California is in another drought, Nestle keeps siphoning off way more water than they should be. Way more than they should be. Water that would make its way down into reservoirs, make its way into the drinking supply in California, and just not happening. And there's a lot of other crops. Like, I'm really having an issue right now with a few other things that we're buying just because of larger water intakes. We don't really use much almonds here. Almonds are a major issue as well. Almonds are a major issue. There's a lot of things. Beef. Oh my God, beef has always been an issue for water consumption. 2,600 gallons to 5,200 gallons per 1 pound of beef produced, depending on what state it's from in the U.S. It takes an immense amount of water. That's why I always encourage people, if you can just cut your beef intake down, your beef consumption down by half. Instead of eating 2 burgers one week, or you eat 1 burger, it makes a huge difference. That's what people do. People will actually say, I have a low flow aerator on my shower. I have low flow aerators on my sink. If you didn't take a shower for 6 straight months, right, you think you're saving water. If you just cut out a couple burgers here and there, you'd be saving the same amount of water. That's it. If you really want to do water conservation, start looking at what foods use the most amount of water. We were in a drought back in 2001, I think. 2001, 2000. When we first moved from Colorado, we were in a drought here. I'm in New York. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but as a chef, I was at a country club in Westchester County. The local health department, thank you, honey. Jamie just made fresh grapefruit juice. The health department wanted me to draw up a plan on how our kitchen is going to use less water. First and only time it's ever happened in my career. The health department wanted me to come up with a plan how we're going to use less water. So, of course, no water to the defrosting. A lot of times restaurants will take those 5-pound blocks of shrimp, which is very common, or other seafoods or other things. They'll take this 5-pound, these blocks of frozen things, put it in a colander, and just run cold water on it for an hour, and the cold water will just run for an hour. And I've never allowed my staff to do that, even before that I have to write up that plan for that drought. I never encourage that. Sometimes for emergencies it's needed, but a lot of restaurants, that's common operating procedures. You just take the water and you let it run on into a colander and put the box of shrimp there, the block of shrimp, block of scallops, whatever. My staff knows you want to defrost something, you put it into the refrigerator the day or 2 days before. If it's a quick thaw, you put it on a fan, and within 15 minutes, with no water consumption, no water waste, you can start all of a sudden start taking shrimp off of this big block. But a lot of restaurants, that's standard procedure. That's what they teach us in culinary school and throughout the whole industry. That's really, really common. So you'd be shocked. Joel says no shower for 6 months to be thrown out of your restaurant. Yeah. So yeah, by just merely watching the amount of beef that you're consuming, like a couple less burgers. Oh, it's not much, folks. It's not much. It's literally like so. If we know that live on the low side, 2,600 gallons of water per 1 pound of beef is on the low side. States like where Joel is in Arizona takes up to 5,200 gallons of water per pound of beef. So literally 2 8-ounce burgers at minimum is going to save 2,600 gallons of water, at maximum like over 5,000 gallons. It was like 51 something and change, I think, when I read it years ago. That right there is probably showers for all year. So enjoy your shower. Don't abuse the shower. Enjoy your shower and cut back on the beef. Mother Nature will definitely thank you for that as well. The environment will thank you for that. There's just so much that goes into food production that is abusive, wasteful. I mean, if you knew the real thing with the food waste, it would totally shock you. And yet it happens at the level of in restaurants, in hotels. Things get cooked extra, things get thrown out, things get wasted. But even like on the level of the farms and everything, things that don't get harvested, things that get thrown out, it's just shocking. I know there's a food show on a few years ago about food waste in America. I never really saw an episode. I just saw the trailer for it. But being in the industry, I know that there's just a lot of disasters of this. And when things are recalled, oh my gosh. Yeah, didn't mean to divert off of San Pellegrino water. Great product, terrible parent company, abuses water in California. And I did something last year on avocados. Avocados from Chile are terrible. These big companies come in there and plant these avocado groves, rob all the water, goes to the avocados. Avocados are very intensive with water. And the locals have to have water now trucked in so they can take showers and stuff. And these people had water prior to the avocado groves going in, but of course the government bows down to big corporations, big industry, and you know, they know how to play the game, so that's what happens. So anytime you see an avocado from Chile, avoid it. Now, avocados still take a lot of water from any state that any region they're produced in. It's not just Chilean avocados, but they just seem to abuse it the most and get away with the most. Of course, Mexican avocados require the same amount of water, but it also matters how much water's in the area. For the longest time, California was the best place to buy avocados. I'm not sure. I have to research that. If there's a drought going on in the area, of course, then avocados would not be an ideal thing to be buying from California. So things do change. Joel saying Lake Mead at an all-time low water, restrictions in effect as of yesterday. Yeah. So, and of course these wildfires that are burning out of control across the whole globe. It's just not California. It's crazy. Susan says we only eat Ohio beef and Dickinson Ranch on Yep. Difference is amazing. Great. Yeah. So back to I gotta get off here because I gotta be on the phone in 4 minutes here with my first coaching client. So with the plan with the health department back in 2000, when I worked at this country club as an executive chef in Westchester, I actually drew up, you know, how we were going to save water. And one of the ways was, you know, offering more vegetarian items on the menu and cutting back and serving more grass-fed beef and things like that. And the health department was like, wow, this is a great angle. Like no other restaurant's doing, or no other restaurant, no other food service, country club is actually saying, being this progressive. They were actually like, wow, that's really a great written plan, you know? So, yeah, so just have to be conscious moving forward everywhere. And a lot of people think, well, it's not my community, right? That's a lot of people's thing is, well, it's not my community, so I don't care. You know, the beef farm's not in my community. Like when the Mayataki farm wanted to come down here into Wurtsboro, people fought that Mayataki farm, fought it at Yukaguni, and they ended up pulling out. And people fought the water consumption. I'm not an expert on Yukaguni and what they're planning on doing, but from what I heard was the water comes up, out of the water table, and back down and back in. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. I don't want to get in an argument with anybody because I just don't know enough about that. But I do know that it takes a lot less water to produce mushrooms than it does take to produce beef. So a lot of those people that were fighting this were still eating beef from other states like California or the Midwest, where it's even worse for those locals there to be eating the local environment there. But since it's not in your backyard, a lot of people don't see the correlation since it's not in your backyard. Now, Mayataki mushrooms are an amazing mushroom. Lots of medicinal benefits. It's also called hen of the woods. And the great thing about Mayataki mushrooms is they grow wild here in the winter and the fall. In October, September to October, cool nights start coming in. They grow wild here on dead or partially dead or dying oak trees. And there really is no reason for a farm. If we just had more foragers, we could get a lot more Mayatakis. I could only imagine how many Mayatakis are wasted with all of the forest here that just people don't get to. And I pick 300 pounds every year, an average of 300 pounds, because I have trees that are loyal to me every year. So if I'm one person picking 300 pounds, and if you had 100, 200, 300 more people out there doing this, because a lot of people are doing it anyway, we get a lot more of these mushrooms and without putting a plant in. But I don't want to get involved in Yukaguni and things like that. Like I said, I don't know. I wasn't educated on as much as I should have been because I'm out picking them. So that's it, folks. I got to get on a phone call here. Everybody have an amazing day. We are closed today. It's Tuesday and Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. We're closed Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Back open Thursday for live jazz in the garden. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later.